So what is it? X cubed plus 2x squared. Here, I'll switch over to the laptop. It was, so the quiz was x cubed plus 2x squared minus 6x minus 12. Okay, so how do we do these four? Well, what's the first question on every factoring problem? What is it? Yeah, good. Do they have anything? So is there something they all have in common? No, right? Everybody good with that? There's nothing they all have in common. Like, do they all have an X? Or do they all have a number? They don't. So then you go, okay, there's nothing in common. So I'm not going to do the one big parenthesis, right? Not going to do the one. That's when they have something in common. I'm going to do the one big parenthesis. Not going to do that. Let me save these results. Today is March 6th. All right, yeah. So there's nothing they all have in common. So we're not going to do that. So then we do, what do we do from there then? So there's no one big parenthesis because they don't all have an X, and there's no number they all have, right? The last one doesn't have an X, and the first one doesn't have any number. So there's nothing they have in common. There's nothing all four have. So what do I do then if I'm not going to do the take out what's in common for all four, one big parenthesis, not going to do that, then what do I do? 2, 2, huh? First two, last two, called grouping, two separate groups, remember that? And you go, okay, just the first two, forget about the back two, because you can't do all four, because there's nothing that all four of them have. Remember this? Now test on this is in 2 days, right? Remember that? Remember what our game plan was? We're going to finish the material today, do a little review, so let's bring this back up to speed. So these are going to be on the test in 2 days. So first two, last two, and you say, okay, you can't do all four, because there's nothing they all four have. They don't all four have an X. They don't all four have a number. So just do first two, last two. So what do just the first two have? Just the first two. X to the second. X to the second. Good. You take the lower power, huh? Because that's what they have in common. Right? So just the first two have x squared, just the first two. And then how do you know what goes inside the parentheses? Well, times what and times what would go back and go back. X squared times what goes back to x cubed. Plain old x and plain old 2. Good. If you distributed that, it would go back to x cubed plus 2x squared, wouldn't it? Does that make sense? And then the sign in the middle, remember I called that the loose horse, right? It's not in the parentheses. Eventually we have to get it corralled, but for now it's loose. Bring that down. Now you look at just the back two. What goes into 6x and 12? What do they have in common? Just those two. 6, huh? 6 goes into both of them. How do you know what goes in the parentheses? Remember, it's always going to match. Don't even think about it. It's got to be the same as the other parenthesis, x plus 2. Let's double check to make sure that's right. Is that right? Negative 6 times x, is that negative 6x? Yeah. Negative 6 times plus 2, is that negative 12? Yeah. Now we're almost done. We can't stop here because we have the loose horse, right? You always have all the pluses and minuses corralled, contained in parentheses when you're done. So we know we're not done. We have one more step. Not only that, this tells us the separation. The loose horse, the plus or minus, not in parentheses, tells us to separate right there. We got this and this. That's how we should look at it. We should look at it as first two. Oops, sorry. Come on. First two and last two, right? It's these two and these two. So what does the first two and the last two both have? A parenthesis x plus 2, don't they? Don't they both have a parenthesis x plus 2? Remember what you do? You remove it, put it in the front, and start a new set of parentheses and drop down the leftovers. What's left over? X squared minus 6. Done. All the horses contained. Done. That was the answer. That was answer A. And you could always move the entire parentheses. Remember, you can always switch the order of the parentheses. That doesn't matter on that. Is that good? You remember that kind of thing? First two, last two, like that? Questions I can answer on that one? Because there'll be at least one, probably two, like this on the exam on Wednesday. Our exam's on Wednesday, right? Exam number 3 is day after tomorrow on Wednesday. Today we're going to finish the material. And then Wednesday we'll do what we always do on exam day. First hour I'll go over the practice exam with you. Second hour we'll take it. You're all going to ace it, right? You guys are like, you may be the highest scoring Math 201 I can remember, so I'm counting on you. Big percentage of you. I'm looking, let's get 80% success rate in this class. I'll be up for a big raise. you know. Won't affect me at all, but I'll be glad to do that. What's that?
Do you do math 103?
I do. I'm trying to think if I do it next semester. I think I do. And I think I do it summer too. I think so. The schedule's out. You can check Web Advisor. I think so. I think so.
And on all your classes based on math Excel?
Yep. Yep. I'll use this stuff.
So if I took summer 103.
So let's get moving with the new stuff. So today we're covering 2 sections, and then we're done. That's all the material on Wednesday's test. So here we go. How do you factor that? Now remember we talked about, we did back before I left, before I was gone. Nobody came to class Wednesday, I hope, because there was nobody here, right? All right. So, all right. So last Monday, a week ago, we did these kind where you do the 2 parentheses. Remember those kind? This is one of those, right? How do you know? Let me try to help with that. Like, how do you know? There's so many different things we do. Let me try to help. Basically, whenever you have 3 terms, you always do the 2 parentheses. That's not entirely true. Let me clarify that. First thing you always ask on every factoring problem, whenever it says factor, is, hey, what do they all have? Usually nothing, but you've got to ask that question and look for it. Because if there's something they all have, like they all have an X, or they all have some number that goes into them all, you know, then you got to do the one big parenthesis step before you do the other stuff. If they all have something in common. They usually don't. Do all 3 of these have an R?
Yeah.
No, the third one, 25, doesn't have an R. Do they all have a number that goes into them all? Well, 5 goes into 10 and 25, but there's no number on the front R squared. So no, there's no number they all 3 have. There's no letter they all 3 have. There's nothing in common to all 3. There usually isn't. So I'm not going to do the one big parenthesis step. Skip it. Go right on to the 2. You with me on that? That's always the first question on every factoring problem. What do they all 3 have in common, or all 4 have in common? Usually nothing, so skip it. Go right to the 2 parentheses. How do I do the 2? Well, let me rewrite the question out here for us. It is r squared minus 10r plus 25. We're talking FOIL now, right? Remember the FOIL word? I hope you guys made it through that homework on FOIL. If you did, you'll be in good shape now. So front times front to make front. What times what makes r squared? R and R. R. Okay, now last times last makes last. What times what makes 25? 5 times 5. No signs yet. Remember, we do the signs at the end. Good so far? Remember, front makes front. Last makes last. And now how do you get the middle? The middle's the hardest part, huh? How do you get the middle?
Middle.
It's OI. What does OI stand for? Inside, outer, huh? The 2 little happy face arcs, right? So inside, 5R, outside, 5R, right? Just 5 times R times 5, same thing, 5R. 5R. Now, how can they make the middle the negative 10, or how can they make negative 10R, which is what's in the middle here?
Negative 5 minus 5.
Both negative. Now the signs come in. Remember, you let the middle tell you the story on the signs. Remember? So how do you make negative 10 out of 2 5s? Negative 5. If you lose $5 and lose $5, you've lost $10. All right, football team loses $5, they've lost $10. Right? Both negative. So move these up, both negative, like that. And by the way, they do multiply to be positive. Remember, the last number comes from multiplying. 2 negatives do multiply to be plus 25, don't they? It is correct. The middle comes from adding. Remember how the middle is always adding? And the back is multiply. Negative 5 and negative 5 multiply to be positive. 2 negatives multiply to be positive 25. And they add to be negative 10, don't they? That's right. That's right. Is that good? Do you remember that kind of stuff? Hey, by the way, notice it's kind of weird. We got the exact same thing twice. Do you know you can write it a shorthand way when you get the exact same thing twice? You can say this is just r minus 5 squared. Yeah. When it's identical twins is how I call it. When they're identical, 2 of them, just make it second power. So there's how Math Excel wants the final answer. R minus 5 to the, can you read that? Maybe I should rewrite that. r minus 5, whoops, to the 2 power. So they want you to go r minus 5 to the 2 power like that. Good, questions? All right, so that's really review. That's really not new. That's what we've done before, huh? It's good. Okay, let's try that one. So same kind of thing. See what you can do. Can y'all read that okay? I'm going to make it x. X squared minus 16x plus 64. So, what's the first question you ask? What do they all have in common? What's in common to all? What do all three of them have? Nothing. So skip. So we skip the big parenthesis, do the 2, right? If they all have something in common, do the one big parenthesis. We skip it, do the 2. And we write FOIL. Use your calculator if you need to with some of these, you're rusty on some of these times tables. Front times front to make front. What times what makes x squared? X and x. Last times last to make 64. 8 and 8, right? Is that good? All right, now what signs do I need? Now we're ready for the middle? The middle is negative 16. They have to add to be the middle and multiply to be the right side. How do you add to be negative 16? Negative 8 makes negative 16, and they multiply, 2 negatives multiply to be positive 64. Hey, and it's identical twins, notice. So what do? Say squared. Not too fast? That okay? Questions I can answer? So basically they're going to give you 5 or 6 problems that are all going to come out identical twins. So you might be able to kind of guess ahead of time on these what it's going to be. You know, when you see that 64 at the end and the 16 in the middle. Yeah, it's true. It'll be multiple choice.
So you can just reverse engineer it.
Yeah, you can. Sometimes you can. That works good. Yeah, definitely look at the options on this test. It'll help you. Exactly. I mean, right away. Of course, you're always looking at some point, but I mean, right away, look at them. I think it's helpful. Okay, so try that one. I'm going to make it an X because my S's don't look so good. They look like 5s. Okay, so there we go. Try that one. So what's the first step on every factoring problem? Yeah, what's in common to all three? What do all three have? What goes into 2, 12, and 18? 2. Yeah, so this time we do have something in common. So you got to do the one big parenthesis, put a 2 in front. Then on the next line, you'll do the 2, huh? Does that make sense, guys and gals? Everybody see that? So when there's something they all have in common, you got to do the one big parenthesis step, and then the 2. You got to first see what it's going to change the numbers, huh? When you do the one big parenthesis. So first, kid will look at those new numbers, then go on to the 2 parentheses. So how do you know what's gonna be? Well, whatever works. 2 times what will go back to 2x squared. X squared. 2 times what will go back to minus 12x. Minus 6x. 2 times what will go back to 18? 9. Plus 9. Is that good? Everybody see how I came up with those? It's whatever works, huh? Whatever multiplies correctly. Is that making sense? Now, we leave that 2 in the front. That 2 is not going to do anything else, but you will be there as part of the final answer. Leave the 2 in the front. Now, do the 2 parentheses and do the FOIL. Because now we're looking at 3 terms. We're thinking about FOIL. finishing it from there. So front times front to make x squared, that's always just x and x basically, huh? Well, not always, but often. All right, and then last times last to make 9. 3 and 3. And how can they add and they multiply? How can they add to be negative 6? Remember? Yeah, both negative, huh? Negative 3 makes negative 6 in the middle. Is that good? And they multiply to be plus 9, don't they? 2 negatives multiply to be plus 9. So look at that. We got identical twins again. So you write x minus 3 squared, huh? Is that good? Questions I can clarify that? Yeah. Yeah, the reason it became this is because when I write FOIL, remember, it's a good question. Remember what FOIL means, everybody. What does the F mean? The front times the front. The front of this parenthesis times the front of that parenthesis has to make that guy. And they do. X times X makes X squared. That's why I can just put regular X regulars, because I know they multiply. If I was to multiply them, they would go back to X squared. Okay. So that's what we're always asking. We're always asking, would they multiply to go back, right? Because that's what factoring is. It's reverse multiplying, isn't it? So you're always asking, if I multiply them, would they go back? So it's right. Right? So front times front, x times x would make x squared. Right. Last times last, 3 times 3 would make 9. So it's right. And then the middle is added. Negative 3, negative 3, negative 6. Yeah, it's right. Does that make sense? Yeah.
When we use that, number 2?
The 2 in the front? Yeah, once we take a front thing, it just sits there throughout the rest of the problem. We don't do anything else with it. It's just there in the end. Yeah. Good. Other questions on that? So we had to first take out the 2 because it was in common. One big parenthesis, all the numbers change. We leave that 2 in the front, then we do the 2 parentheses FOIL and make that 4. All right. So this is going to be a really ugly one. You need a calculator unless you're just really, really good with your times tables. So 63, let's make it x squared minus, was that 84, x plus 28, yeah. Okay, first question. So don't say it out loud, give everybody a chance to figure it out. Ask yourself, what number goes in, use your calculator, to 63, 84, and 28? Try dividing different numbers. 7. Give you a hint, there is a number. There is a number. Try to divide. And you know what? On the test we take Wednesday, everybody, on the test we take Wednesday, this is where you would look down at the answers. You know what I mean? Look down at the ABCD. You know, the A, B, C, D answers. And you'll see a couple of them have a 7 in the front. That's what you would see. A couple of them have a 7 in the front. And you would go, oh, I wonder if they're all divisible by 7. Let that help you, you know. Go back, take your calculator, and try 63 divided by 7. Try 84 divided by 7. Try 28 divided by 7. And you'll see, yeah, it's 7. So let that help you. So yeah, so divide by 7, divide by 7, divide by 7. So you put a 7 in the front, divide them all by 7, you get what? 9, 12, and 4? A little dramatic music for that? Factory problem? Good? Is that making sense so far, right? Because if I multiply that, it would go back, wouldn't it? Now we're not done. That's just the one percent. Now we leave that 7 in the front, and we don't do anything else with the 7. It just stays in the front. That will be part of the final answer. And now we do the 2 parentheses, right? With the FOIL thing. FOIL. So front times front to make front, right? That's what F stands for in the word FOIL, right? Front times front to make front. So 1 times 1 makes 9x squared.
3x.
3x, huh? Good. So 3x, good so far. And then last times last to make last. What times what makes that? Yeah, 2 and 2, right? So I'll go 2 and 2. Now, okay, so that's, now don't do the signs yet. Remember, the sign comes from the middle. So let's look at the middle now. Now, 2 and 2 is not going to make 12. Yeah, it's more tricky than just, you don't just say 2 and 2. Remember, the middle comes from what? OI, the OI, which is outer, inner. 2 times 3 is 6x. That's kind of scribbly there. And 2 times 3 is 6x. It's 6 and 6. That will make, what, negative 12x in the middle? So they both need to be negative, don't they? So negatives on both. Everybody see how I did that? Right? So front times front made front. 3 times 3 makes 9. Last times last, 2 times 2 makes 4. But the middle, remember, is OI. Inner, outer. 2 times 3 is 6x. 3 times 2 is 6. And what signs do they need to make negative 12? The middle, both negative. You lose $6, you lose $6, you lost $12. Right? So they're both negative. And 2 negatives do multiply to be plus 4, don't they? Remember, the back number is from multiply, the middle's from adding, right? So it's right. Oh, I forgot. These are identical twins, so you know what we do. We say 3x minus 2 squared, huh? Because they're identical twins.
Will it have those 2 answers, and we have to simplify it for that?
It'll have this and a bunch of false answers.
Okay.
Yeah, it won't show it like that.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that'd be mean.
I'm like, okay, which one is it?
Yeah, no, because they'd both be right.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, no, they won't do that to you.
Okay.
Question?
Your negative x is the check? That
Yes,
is two
well
over?
said. That's the check. That's exactly. I'm checking to make sure the middle's going to work. That they're going to make the middle.
Okay, so if the 2 outer numbers.
Yeah, the 2 inner and the 2 outer. 2 inner makes negatives. 2 times 3 is 6. The 2 outer, 3 times 2, also 6.
But if those
Add.
functions didn't come up to negative 12, then they would have to be something.
Correct. Exactly right. They've got to make the middle or it's not right. Exactly. You got it right on the button. Question?
So maybe like on the test, like, you have 2 questions, like 2 answers, but the same thing like that.
Oh, I won't. Like on the test, I wouldn't give you this and this. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
No, it would just be this. And then a bunch of crazy answers. Yeah.
So there's only always one answer that makes sense?
Well, only one answer is fully right. Yeah. Where, see, if I put both these, those would both be fully right. I won't do that. Okay. So 4r squared plus 20rt plus 25t squared. Okay. All right, give that one a try. So first step, what's in common to all the terms? What do all 4 of them have? You always ask that first.
Oh wait, no. 2. That's our team.
Yeah, does 4 go into 4 goes into 4, 4 goes into 20, does 4 go into 25? Not even. You divide it, it's not clean, is it? Because it's decimal, right? So no, 4 doesn't work. Do they all have an R?
No.
The first 2 do, but the last one doesn't have an R. Do they all have a T? The last 2 do, but the first one doesn't have a T. No. Nothing in common. Skip the 1 parenthesis, go right to the 2. Is that making sense? There's nothing that they all have in common. They don't all 3 have a number. They don't all 3 have a letter. So we skip it, go right to the 2 parentheses, start thinking about FOIL right away. Everybody see why we skipped the 1 big parenthesis this time? Because there's nothing in common. Right? Go right to the 2, think about front to make front, last to make last, and then OI for the middle. Outer and inner.
That's what? Two? It's 2R. 2R. Should be 2R.
So front times front to make front. What times what makes 4R squared?
2R.
2R, 2R. Everybody good with that? That makes sense? 2R times 2R is 4R squared, right? See how that front makes front? And then last to make last.
So if I can do it 10.
What times what makes 25t squared? Yeah. And we need the t also, 5t. 5t, right? To make 5t squared. By the way, the letters are pretty easy, y'all. Do y'all see that? If you have t squared on the right, you're going to have t's in the right of each parenthesis. If you have r squared on the left, you're going to have r's in the left of each parenthesis. It's just like that, but it's always very predictable. Yeah, so now check the middle. All we got left is the middle. We got the front, we got the last. Now for the middle. See if the middle's right. The two little happy face arcs. The two inners, the two outers, inner, inner, outer, outer. So 5t times 2r
10.
is 10 RT or TR, however you want to write that, doesn't matter. But it's 10. And then 2 times 5 is also 10. Can they make plus 20 RT, the middle?
Yeah.
Yeah, both plus, huh? Both plus.
And would it be squared because you're adding it, right?
So the final answer is 2r plus, boy, I'm really getting scribbly here. 2r plus 5t squared. So there's the final answer. Did I answer your question? So because they're identical twins, right? Whenever you have two identical twins, you just write that squared.
Okay,
Is that your question?
not really.
What can I answer?
Okay, so, I don't know why, because look, if you go, the 5 times, the 5t times 2r becomes 10 RT,
Right.
and then opposite, 10 RT,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be, oh, because you're adding, right?
Right, yeah, remember the middle's adding.
Okay, so.
Yeah, it's not multiplying.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the key. Yeah, good. I'm glad you brought that up. Right, and the key is that middle is different than the back. The middle, it comes from adding. You really have to remember that, and the back is multiply. Right? So the middle, yeah, so 10 and 10 add to be 20. And they multiply it to be 5 and 5 multiply to be 25 at the back. Yeah, the middle is adding. It's the only adding piece up there. Everything else is multiply, huh? The only thing we add is the middle. That's what the middle. All right, these starting to make more sense? Feel like you can do this in 2 days? Okay, let's try that one. 64, I'm going to make it an X again. I'm going to make it XY instead of S and P. So there we go. Okay, so try that one. What's the first question in every factoring problem?
What they got in common?
What do they all have in common? Huh? So check, see if they all have an X, or they all have a Y, or they all have a number.
Show me what that mass is. What you doing, kid? Feature. One practice. Draco?
Is there something they all have?
No.
Yeah, there's nothing in common, right? They don't all have an X. The last one doesn't have an X. They don't all have a Y. The front one doesn't have a Y. Right? There's no number, because the back one has no number at all. There's no number they all have. The last one doesn't have any number at all. Right? So there's nothing in common. So what does that mean when there's nothing they all have in common? So I go right to the two parentheses. I skip the one big parenthesis. You only do the one big parenthesis for when they all have something in common. So I skip it. It's just going to be a one-stepper instead of a two-stepper. right? When they have something in common, those are the ones that are usually two steps. One big parentheses, then two. You just go right to the two, because there's nothing in common. All right, so do the FOIL thing. So FOIL. Front times front to make front. Use your calculator if you're not sure. What times what makes 64?
8x and 8x.
Oh yeah, good question. Let me address that. Basically, it only has to be, because I've said, and you're right to think that, highest power to lowest, and that's true. But when they have two letters, there's no way to make both letters go highest to lowest. So you just pick one letter.
Well, yeah, so it's gonna go in order of the alphabet.
You could go either way, actually. But yeah, I'm just going to go with x. You're right. So x squared, x, no x. Just ignore y. When you have two letters, you can't do both. So just pick one letter and make sure it's highest for that letter, next, and lowest. For just that letter, ignore the other letter.
So if it was just one letter, we would probably think about reordering it.
Yeah, if it was just one letter, and the highest power was at the back, we would reorder it. You're totally right. But yeah, but if it's two letters, just make sure one of the letters is in the right order. That's the best you can do. No way you can make them both. So this is x squared, x, no x. So it's good. X squared, x, no. So leave the order. So yeah, so front times right. What times what? 64? 8 and 8. So we'll do that. 8x, 8x. Front times front to make front. And then last times last to make last. What times what makes y squared? Just y and y. And notice, whenever there's y squared on the right, we're going to have y's in the right of each parenthesis. X squared on the left, x is in the left, of each parenthesis. It's always like that, huh? The letters are pretty predictable. Now, what about the middle?
Negative 16.
Comes from oi, and you got to add. The middle's add from oi. Oi means inner, inner, outer, outer. That's 8xy. The other one is also 8xy. What do they need to make the middle? Minus 16xy. Both negative, huh? If you lose $8 and lose $8, you lost $16. Both negative. And two negative y's multiply. Remember, the back is from multiply to be positive y squared. It is correct. They're identical twins. So we go 8x minus y, quantity squared. Is that good? Questions on that? No? We good? All right.
Difference of two squares.
Yeah, this will be your favorite kind of factoring. This is going to be the easiest kind of factoring. Basically, when you have c squared minus 81, c squared minus 81, that is what's called a difference of squares. And notice, by the way, notice it's only two terms. That's kind of different, isn't it? We've been doing three terms on all the problems today. So, well, the quiz was 4 terms. And then all the other 8 problems we've done today have all been 3 terms. This only has 2 terms, notice. Right? Yeah, 2 terms. So how's it going to work? Well, you know what it is? It's just like FOIL, except it's only F and L. The middle is missing. The oi is missing, and that's great, because that's the hardest part, isn't it? All you got to do is FL. That's my little nickname. It's technically called a difference of squares, but FL is kind of nice. It's staying consistent with what we've been thinking. So just do the 2 parentheses. This will be the easiest kind. And just say, all right, front times front to make front, right? F means front, front, front. So what times what makes C squared?
C and C.
C and C, right? Good so far. So just C and C. And then last times last to make 81. What times what makes 81? 9 and 9.
But what
And
makes it negative?
yeah, and what makes a negative 81? 1 plus 1 minus, either order. You can put the minus first and the plus. It doesn't matter at all. Just 1 positive, 1 negative makes negative 81, and we're done. Don't need to mess with it. Don't need to check the oi and all that stuff. It's just good. This is the easiest kind of factor. Just FL. That makes sense? By the way, do you know why you don't have to check the oi? The oi is missing, huh? Right? The oi should be right here in the middle, and it's not there. You know what that means the oi really is, since it's missing? It's really what number? 0. right? It's like the oi is 0. That's why it's missing. If you did the oi here, guess what you would get? You don't have to do this at all. But if you did, like, check the middle for the oi, you would get plus 9c and minus 9c, which is 0. Right? Because remember, they add. Remember, the middle comes from adding. What do plus 9 and minus 9 add to be? 0. That's why there's no middle, you see. But they multiply, positive times negative multiply to be negative 81. So you don't need to do that. Not required. This is the answer. Oh, can I make that? Are those identical twins? No, one's plus, one's minus, so we can't make it squared, can we? They're not identical. They're almost identical, but not quite. They're fraternal twins, or whatever the other type is. So that's just it right there. All right. So, all right. V squared minus 36. Give you 30 seconds. It's 2 terms. Are you guys getting the hang of how to know which things to try? So 2 terms, we just do FL. No. Just FL. If there were 3 terms, we do 4. 2 terms FL. So FL. You just look at that and go, okay, I'm going to do FL. I'm going to scribble all over it. So FL, 2 parentheses. Front times front to be V squared. V and V. Last times last to be 36. It's going to be 6 and 6. And how do you make a negative 36? One positive, one negative, either order, doesn't matter. And that does make 0 in the middle, doesn't it? Because if you add them, that's why there's no middle. Because the middle is really 0. We're done. That quick. It's your favorite factoring, right? Good? Questions on that? Okay, minus 16 plus b squared. Reorder. Does that make sense? Say you have to reorder that one. Put the b squared in the front. Now can you finish it from there? So FL, front times front to be b squared. B and B, last times last to be 16. 4 and 4. How do you make negative 16?
Positive and negative.
1 positive, 1 negative. We're done. That good? No questions? All right. All right. C squared minus T squared. Try that one. 2 terms. What are you going to do?
What do you do? C plus C.
It's another FL, right?
Plus T plus T.
Front times front. So C times C. Last times last. T times T.
Positive and negative.
1 positive, 1 negative. Done. We good? It's your favorite kind. Oh, or you could switch the order, right? Everybody okay with that? You could have C minus T, C plus T. That's the same answer, right? Doesn't matter what order. On the multiple choice test on Wednesday, don't worry about the order. So 36a squared minus p squared. So FL again, right? 2 terms. We always do FL. 3 terms we do FOIL. 2 terms we do FL. So FL. Front times front to be 36a squared.
Nope, that's wrong.
6a, 6a, right? Good so far? Last times last to be p squared. We'll just p and p, huh? What signs to make negative p squared? One positive, one negative. Done. Good?
So we don't rewrite it, or only put the negative in the
Say that again?
The last one you wrote.
Yeah, the last one we wrote because the letter was at the back. Let me flash back. It's a good question. See the last one? No, two of them. That one right there. See how the letter was back? There was no numbers in the front. I'm sorry, no letters in the front. That's why we did it. Yeah. So we got to have something squared in the front. Yeah. So there we go. Yeah. So that's good. The front. That's a lie. I try to make it simpler, and then sometimes I oversimplify. So your question was a really good one, and I told you a lie. And I knew it as I said that. That's not really true, but I don't want to confuse it with too many details. And the very next question, I got to be a truth teller now. Right. So I got to give you the deeper story. It's not that you have, like, I'm not going to reorder this one. Right. The whole deal is here's the real story. You've got to keep the negative in the middle. That's the real story. I didn't want to confuse you. It's a little different than other things, but they're pushing it, so we have to know that. You've got to keep the negative in the middle. That was what was wrong with the one a little bit ago. So now let me write a note on that. Let me write this, and I'll flash back to show you. For FL, well, here, let me try that again. For FL must have negative in the middle. You've got to have a negative in the middle for the FL. So this one has it. It's great. I'm not going to reorder it. I'm not going to mess with it at all. I don't care. Now I know it's confusing. You say, wait a minute, you told us all that stuff about highest power in the front stuff. Yeah, that was for 3 termers. That was only for 3 termers. I know this is where you got to kind of remember the different situations. For 3 terms, you have to have x squared x no x order. That's for 3. That's kind of scribbly. For 3 termers, you have to have the x squared coming first, the regular x, and then the no x at the back. That's for 3 termers. That makes sense. That's for 3 termers. But for 2 termers, for FLs, we don't care what the order is as long as you have a negative in the middle. So you have to learn that. Put that in your 3x5 card for the test on Wednesday. That would be probably a very helpful note to put on your 3x5 card. For 3 terms, it's got to be x squared x no x, so we do often reorder those. But for 2 termers, only time we reorder for 2 termers for FLs is if they don't have a negative in the middle. All we care about is negative in the middle. We don't care about powers and stuff like that for 2 termers. All we care about is negative in the middle for 2 termers for FL. Makes sense? So this one, FL, I'm not going to reorder it. It's good. It's good right now. I'm just going to go, well, I'm out of room, really. Well, I don't know where to go. I'm going to go over here. Well, no, I'm going to go right here. All right. Is there room there? Can you see it? Yeah. All right. Front times front to make front. 5 and 5. Last times last to make c squared. Well, c and c. 1 plus 1 minus to make negative c squared. There we go. That's a fine answer with the letters at the back. That's fine. That's the answer. I never reordered it. Why not? Because it already had a negative in the middle. Now let me take you back. Everybody got that copy down? Let me take you back. Remember that one? See that one? So that was the real reason. What I said a minute ago wasn't the real reason. I was just trying to make it simpler. The real reason we had to reorder this one, back three problems ago, number 11, was because it didn't have a negative in the middle. It had a plus in the middle. You see that? You can't do FL with plus in the middle. You've got to have negative. So I reordered them, put the negative in the middle, and then front, last, 1 plus 1 minus, done. Good? So FL, negative in the middle, but for 3 termers, x squared x, no x. We care about the power levels, right? Everybody seen those differences? They each have their particulars. So for FLs, for 2 termers, let me go back to the instructions here. There we go. For FLs, for 2 termers, you must have negative in the middle. For 3 termers, you must have x squared, x no x. So put that on your 3x5 card. It'll serve you well. Let's go forward. All right, try this one. 81 r squared minus 49 d squared. So it's 2 terms. So we're looking for FL. So does it have a negative in the middle? Yeah, so it's good. We don't have to reorder it. Just leave it in that order. FL. So front times front. Use your calculator if you're rusty to make 81r squared. By the way, you know what? You can hit the square root button. Yeah, guys, hit the square root of 81. Hit the square root of 49. It'll tell you what multiplies. You know that square root button? That's what it does. It says what times itself is this. Yeah, square root of 81 will be 9. The square root button. Square root of 49 will be 7. It'll tell you what times itself makes those numbers. So 9r, 9r. Front times front. Yep. And then 7d, 7d. 1 plus, 1 minus, either order. There we go. Why is there no middle term? Because if you add it, remember the middle comes from adding, plus 7 and minus 7 would be 0. Make sense? We good? Questions? All right, I'm going to try to fool you now. You got this FL thing, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you're never going to mess up on FL, right?
No.
Yeah.
I'm going to trick more than half of you. I'll bet with a show of hands on the next FL problem. You ready? I like to fool you in class so I won't fool you on the test. Right? So it'll stick with you. I'm going to fool you. I'm throwing down the gauntlet. Prove me a liar. I'm betting I'll fool more than half of you on a simple FL question. Because there's one more thing you need to know, and I think this will help you remember it better. All right, so 144b squared minus 100. Give it a try. It's going to fool you. Probably. I bet there won't be more than 2 people in the class who get it right.
I'll bet you.
Use your calculator. The reason is because you're forgetting the words. I haven't said it for about 20 minutes. Remember the words I was saying a half an hour ago? I was saying repeatedly on every factoring problem. Is this a factoring problem? Yeah, it's a factoring problem. On every, without exception, every factoring problem, what's the first thing you should look for?
He tricked us.
Well, now we're all doing it right.
Yeah, now they'll hopefully be one too. What's in common? Don't jump into that two parentheses thing until you first ask yourself what goes into 144 and 100. Use your calculator. If you do that part, then you'll get it right. So remember, you've got to do the 1 parenthesis first. You can't jump right into the 2, even for FL, for all factoring problems. The first question is, what's in common? We just haven't had anything in common for a while. But 144 and 100, something goes into both those. They have a commonness. You got to get the biggest. There 2 goes into, but there's something bigger, huh? Is it 4? I think it's 4, isn't it? This is where you would look down on the test. Excuse me. And you would see the 4. You know, like you look at A, B, that's an A. A, B, C, D. And you'd see a couple of them have 4s in the front, you know. And you'd go, oh, I bet 4. I bet I got to do a 4 first. You know, let that help you. Let that guide you. Yeah, I believe it's 4, right? Don't you have to do the 4? And then remember, you do the 1 parenthesis, and then on the next line, then you'll do the 2. That's the trick on this one. So when you take 4 out, what do you get? 36? and 25. Now you can get it. So put that 4 out front first. Now finish with the FL thing. Yeah. That's why I'm trying to fool you today, so I won't fool you Wednesday. Now you won't be fooled Wednesday, right? You'll look down, you'll see those 4s in the front on the answers, and you'll go, oh yeah. Take out a 4, right? Do the 1 parenthesis first when they have something in common, right? We always do the 1 big parenthesis. And then front times front to be front. Front times front to be front. 6b. 6b, right? And last times last to be last. 5, 5. Yeah, 1 plus 1 minus to make negative 25. Now that's correct. That's the right answer. Is that good? That makes sense. So see how it's always the first question is what's in common to all the terms. You gotta look for that. The problem is it's usually nothing, so we get out of the habit. You know what I mean? But you gotta be looking for it. And when there is something, you gotta do the 1 parenthesis before you do the 2. Questions? All right. Okay, so 4c minus 9c cubed. Whoops, I'm kind of getting scribbly. Hey, should I reorder that one? Think what I wrote up as the rule. When do we try to reorder for like highest powers and stuff? 3 terms. Only 3 termers do we want x squared, x, no, it's like highest power to lowest. Only for 3 termers. 2 termers, this is just a 2 termer. What do we care about? Minus in the middle. That's all we care about. It's got a minus in the middle. I'm not going to reorder anything. Everybody see that? It's only 3 termers that we want highest power in the front. 2 termers, we just want a negative in the middle, right? Get those rules straight? All right, so we're not going to reorder. Now, what's the first question on every factoring problem?
What do they have in common?
What do they have in common? What does the 4c have and the 9c to the third also have? They both got a c, don't they? You take the lower power in the front, just c, do 1 parenthesis, and then on the next line, you'll do the 2, right? So many rules. Lots of rules. So what does it leave inside? 4 minus 9c squared. Is that good? Is that making sense so far? Right? Because if I multiplied that c to both those, it would go back to 4c and 9c cubed, wouldn't it? Now, do the FL, right? So do the FL. Front times front to make front. 2 times 2 makes 4. Am I going too quick? Just making sense? And then last times last to make last. What times what makes 9c squared?
Positive 3c and
3c, 3c, 1 plus 1 minus, huh? And we got it. Where? Here? Oh, no, good question. 4. It's not 4c, is it? Or 4c squared, just 4. So 2, 2. That's all. Front makes front. 2 times 2 makes 4. But on the back we have the c squared. So 3c makes 9c squared. Because the c squared's on the right, the c's are on the right in the parentheses. No c on the left, no c on the left in the parentheses. On that question. I'm sorry, what?
9.
Here on the bottom line. Ready to- So are you asking, if we were to multiply this, would it really go back?
Actually pretty good.
It would. To go back, you would need to first FOIL this, and then you would get that, and then let the C go through, and it would go back to that. Yeah, it would go back. All right, let's keep going. All right, so 1/81st minus 25x to the 12th. What's the first question on every factoring problem?
What do they have in common?
What do they have in common? Nothing. So usually it's nothing, right? That goes into 81 and 5, bless you. That thing goes into 81 and 25. X is on the right. No, there's nothing in common. So don't do the 1 parenthesis, go right to the 2. Right to, hey, do I need to reorder? Because the bigger power is not in the front. Should I do that? No, that's only for 3 terms when we care about the power. For 2 terms, you just care about, does it got minus in the middle? Yeah, that's good. That's all we care about, right?
Shoot the 3.
What's that? Well, yeah, we go to the, oh, yeah, the, no. Yeah, good question. No, don't need them. Well, our answer will have parentheses, but we don't need them on the first step. Yeah. Just go to here. You can keep them. It doesn't matter. Whatever. Either way, we go to 2 parentheses. So what times what? Front. It's an FL, right? FL. Front times front to make 1/81st. What's that? 1/9, 1/9. Do you see that? And last times last to make 25x to the 12th. Good job. 5x, remember powers add, right? 5x to the 6th. Whoops, that 6 is supposed to be. This is kind of a mess. One plus, 1 minus. There we go. Is that good? Making sense? Okay, so 0.81. It's getting a little sloppy there. Try again. Minus 0.0016. Okay, so yeah, you know what I do, guys? I would hit the root button on my calculator. You guys have the root button? That'll tell you 0.9. Y and 0.9 Y. And it'll tell you 0.04 and 0.04, 1 plus, 1 minus, and you're done. You guys getting that okay? Man, I can't make that Y. So there's just hit the square root button on your calculator. Good? Questions on that one? Got it copied down? I'm gonna keep. All right, so before we get into that one, before I show you that question, let me give you some information. We've been talking about something like, how would you factor x squared minus 9, for example? You all know, right?
Yeah.
What would it be?
X plus 3, x minus 3.
Yeah, it'd be x is in the front, plus 3, minus 3, right? And you're totally right. And let's check it, just to be sure it's right. If I was to actually check it, how would you check it? How do you check factoring? Well, you multiply it. See if it really goes away. If I was to multiply that one to both, remember that how to multiply? So the x, what's x times x?
X squared.
X squared. X times minus 3 is minus 3x. He's done, remember, first to both, second to both. Remember that whole thing? Now this guy's going to go to both. Plus 3x minus 9. And then what happens in the middle here? Am I going too fast? Remember that? First to both, second to both. Yeah, what happens with minus 3x plus 3x? Cancel that. See, it's just x squared minus 9. See, it is true. If you FOIL those out, it goes back to x squared minus 9. Right? I'm just verifying that what we're doing is true. If we really multiplied this out, it would return. Right? And so the way I'm showing you, the way I've set it up to now is I've said 1 positive, 1 negative makes negative 9 at the back. That's the F and the L at the back. And the middle is missing. Whoops. The OI middle is missing. What is the middle then, really? What is the OI? 0. And how do we always get the middle? By adding. If you add plus 3 and minus 3, what do you get? 0. That's what's happening here. That's the OI, which is 0. Okay, that you know. Now, here's the new piece of information I want to give you. What if they gave me x squared plus 9, and I tried to do FL? Is it just... right. Often on the tests, even all the way up to my... I'm teaching pre-calculus right now, 3 sections of it. And even in calculus, all the time I'll get pre-calc and calculus students going, oh, Ms. Tarrant, it's x plus 3, x plus 3. And I always say, you should have got that figured out back in Math 201, not up here in calculus. But they didn't. That's not right. It is not x plus 3, x plus 3. The reason is, if you checked it, you would find, if you checked it, and you did this, you'd get x squared plus 3x plus 3x plus 9. The middle would not cancel. It would be x squared plus 6x plus 9, which is not what it originally was. Not right. Everybody see that? It's because the 3 and 3 make 9, yeah, but they add to be 6 in the middle. You see, this would give you a middle term of 6x, which we never had. So that's a long way to say FL, only minus in the middle works. How do you do plus in the middle? Here, I need a new color. Come on. You cannot. You can't do FL plus. Let me get a fresh screen here. So, in other words, what I'm saying is, if you have x squared minus 9, as we already said, it's x plus 3x minus 3. But if you have x squared plus 9, you cannot. Period. It can't be factored. So, in other words, FL added is a no-go. FL minus can be done. That's really important. As I said, it haunts pre-calc and calculus students. It's really important. So everybody hear me? FL plus can't do it. FL minus, no problem. Front, last, 1 plus, 1 minus. Why? Because these only have 2 terms. They have no middle term, meaning the middle, the OI, has to be 0. The only way the middle is going to be 0 is if you have 1 plus, 1 minus. If you have both plus, that would never make the middle 0. There's no way to make the middle 0 on this guy. Does everybody see that? Do y'all see why x squared plus 9 cannot be done? If you thought it could, look at the trouble. You think, well, is it plus 3 plus 3? No, that would make 9, yeah, but that would make a middle of plus 6 when you added them, right? And we don't have a middle of plus 6. You can't do both minus, because that would make a middle of minus 6, which we don't have. You see, when you're missing the middle, you have to have 1 plus 1 minus, don't you? It's the only way to get the middle to be 0, to be missing. And 1 plus 1 minus is going to make negative at the back. That's why only FL minus can be done, not plus. Question?
So you cannot have, like, x, for example, just take off 1 and just put squared, and plus 3 squared, like you can't have that as an answer?
So for x squared plus 9, you cannot have what?
Like x plus 3 parentheses squared. You can't have that as an answer?
No.
It has to be like a 2.
Yeah. So no, because that would be x plus 3, right? A 2 means 2 of them. No, I know you might think, no, just square it. That's illegal. Because you have another good question. Let me answer that. Because you might be thinking, and probably a lot of people are with him. A lot of people are probably thinking, Mr. Aaron, can't we just do it like that? Because that just means square the x, square the 3. There it is. That's right. No, that's completely wrong. But it looks right. But let me prove to you that you actually know that's wrong. Let me show you. Here's how you test those rules. There is a lot of stinking rules in algebra, aren't there? There are too many rules for you to memorize them all. A way better way to proceed. What I learned when I was taking this in high school just a couple years ago, decades ago. Anyway, my buddy, little Mike Bell, I remember, he said to me, I was asking him some rule, I didn't remember the rule. He said to me, test it with numbers. And that was eye-opening to me. In other words, if you're thinking that this leads to this, that's wrong. Here's how, what if you think that in the middle of the final exam or in the middle of the exam on Wednesday and you're not sure? Test it with numbers. Meaning, put in a 1, put in a 2, for example. Easy numbers. And put a square there. And ask yourself, is that really 1 squared plus 2 squared? Is it really? I mean, it's just numbers. We can figure out whether that's true or false, can't we? What would that be? 1 plus 4, right? 2 squared is 4. That'd be 5. Is this 5? Is it 5? Well, what's 1 plus 2? 3. That math you can do, right? Squared. What's 3? Come on. What is 3 squared? 9, not 5. See that? Not true. Don't need a math teacher to tell you so. The idea that you can have a square on 2 things added and just square it, is not true, as proven by those numbers. That would be 5. Remember, math just follows truth. If you just discern the truth, you'll be there. See how that's just not true? So, am I losing you? Am I talking over your head? Are you catching me? So my point in all this is when you have a square on parentheses, you can't just say that's x squared, 3 squared. That's not true. What do you do then? What is true? You got to write 2 of them. And then you got to FOIL. And when you do, you get a middle 6x, which is not really there. All right, that's probably more story than you needed. Any more story, come grab me. All right, so 5b to the 4th minus 405. Yeah, that's a good exercise right here. Try this one. Try that one.
What they got in common?
All right, what's the first step on every factor problem? What's the first step? What's the first step? What's in common? So don't jump into the 2 parentheses. First say, what goes into both those? 5, right? So put a 5 in the front. Do 1 parenthesis. Just 1. We'll do 2 on the next line. B to the 4th minus, is it like 81?
Yeah.
Good so far? Right, I just divided by 5 there to get that. Right? You just divide them by 5 because I put a 5 in the front. Everybody okay to there? Good so far? So take your calculator.
Actually, it will give me an error if I do that too.
And then you'll do them again with 5-5 after that. But first do the 25-25. All right, so we good to there? Now we leave that 5 in the front. We do the 2 parentheses, right? We're doing FL. B squared, 9, 9, 1 plus 1 minus. Now, the 5 is going to stay 5. He just comes down. The b squared plus 9, whoops, what am I doing? I'm messing it all up. Has to stay that way, right? And then the other guy, this is FL. This guy can break into 2. B plus 3 minus 3. There it is. Does that make sense? There's our final answer. See how that worked? That good? See how that FL minus broke down again. But the FL plus just stays as it is.
Yeah.
And the first step, we take out what's in common. First step, we take out the 5, and then we had FL minus, so we do plus minus, and then this stays plus. This breaks down again. And we're good. How do you know when you're done? Well, the plus guys aren't going to ever go further. Don't even give him a second look. They're not going anywhere. But this guy's now just regular B. He's not B squared anymore. So he can't go again. He's done. Right? Everybody see that? When you see B squared or X squared, you think about going further. For minus you can, for plus you may not. Right? Good. There's a lot of these. All right, 1 minus c to the 8th. It's big old FL, isn't it? So do the 2 parentheses. Front. Do I need to reorder them? No, as long as you have a minus in the middle with 2 terms, you're good. If there were 3 terms, you put the highest power in the front. We don't have 3 terms. We just have 2 terms. So the order is fine. Okay, now, the 1s have to stay in the front. You can't put the c's in the front. Whatever is on the right must remain on the right. C to the 4th. C to the 4th, 1 plus 1 minus. Whoops. Everybody good so far? That's the first step. Now they'll break down again. But not this guy. This guy is just going to stay as he is. And this guy will break into 2. That good? Everybody tracking with me? There's one more step. This guy is plus, so he's not going any further. This guy's plus, so he's not going any further. But this guy, he's going to break into 2. 1 plus c, 1 minus c. There we are, done, finally. Everybody see that? Yeah.
How do you know, like, when you actually have to, like, break it down into
Whenever to higher power. Good question. Whenever it's not just regular c. Yeah, so when I see c to the 4th, I think, oh, I better make that 2 and 2. Oh, but not for the plus. But yeah, for the minus, 2 and 2.
Well, yeah, because.
Then I go, oh, 2, I can make that regular. First power. But not for the pluses, they just come down. But for the minus, yeah, 2 is regular. And at this point, I know I'm done because these are all plus, so they can't do anything. And he's the only minus, but he's just regular C.
And 1
He's not
times
squared.
1 is 1 infinitely.
Right.
1 times 1 is
That's a good question. Everybody making sense out of that? How do you know when to even think about going further? When it's got a higher power. When it's x squared or x to the 3rd or 4th or 5th or 6th. When it's not just regular x.
Is that only in the factoring difference of squares? Or is that?
Yeah, just for these difference of squares. You're right, yeah. Does that make sense? So again, the pluses will never go further. It's only the minuses. So if we have a minus that's a higher power, we break it into half and half. 2 and 2. And then a minus, this is the only minus because of plus. Higher power, break it into half and 2, 1 and 1. And now it's just regular 1, so that's not going to go further. Does that make sense on that? So whenever it's a higher power, like C2 or C4, with a minus, we break those down.
So it was like 1 plus c to the 4th, and then 1 minus c, and then 1 plus c, and then 1 plus c squared, like in a different order. It's like I knew.
Oh yeah, the order doesn't matter. You can shift the order all around. Yeah.
Like it asks us to put it in, like.
They won't. Any order with the parentheses, you can always move them around. Fractions are your friends. All right, let's see. X squared minus 1/9. Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's just an FL. Right? Because see why it's x squared? It's a higher power with a minus, huh? So you guys seeing the pattern? Higher power with a minus, you can do it, right?
X minus 1/3.
Right? If that was just regular x minus a ninth instead of x squared, I wouldn't do anything with it. But it's a higher power. So cut it in half. Regular x, regular x. What times what? This is FL. Last times last to be 1/9? Right, 1/3, 1/3, huh? 1 plus 1 minus, done.
Well, okay, so I have one.
I can check your individual one if it's different on your own, please. Yeah.
Can you go back to the last one and solve?
So everybody good with this one? That makes sense? 1 plus 1 minus.
That was too easy.
Good. So the last one? This one okay?
No, the one that you skipped, the A's,
Oh,
to the 12 minus 16.
you guys want to see that one? All right, I'm going to make it x. X to 12 minus 16. So it's a higher power with a minus. Break her down, right? Cut it in half. Power.
Eight. It's 97. 21. That's fucking tough. Yeah, all between 2 and October. 10, 1995. For real? Yeah, hello. I went to Colombia and I came back 2 years ago. You went to Colombia? You sure? You get some bomb-ass coffee? Get some bomb-ass coffee. All right, now that's what I'm gonna go back and play this up. Guess where I went to go? Guess where I went to go back today? Guess where I went to go? College Junior? Nah. College Junior. You never go. You always seem to never go. You never invite me. You never give me a bacon to go eat.
Well, gee, you made that so easy.
All right. So higher power with a minus. So FL, 2 parentheses, X. Remember, powers add. Never forget powers add. Out front numbers multiply, but powers add, right? So 4, 4, 1 plus 1 minus. Can we go further? How do you know you can go another step? Because you have a power that can be cut in half with a minus. So he's saying, I want to go again. One more time. Right? Whereas the plus is saying, I'll drop down, but I'm not breaking down. Right? So this one will break into 2. And it'll be x to the third, x, because again, powers add, plus 2 minus 2. Now, can we go again? No. Because here's the only minus one. Those plus ones aren't going to go any further. And he's not a number you can cut in half. Might maybe be a decimal. We don't want to go there. We're done. Everybody see that?
That's it.
Not only that, 2 isn't a square. What times what's 2? You can't do that part either. Right? So we're done. Everybody see why you can't do the minus any further on that one?
Shorter than this one.
All right. All right. I'm going to put an x in there. 5x squared minus 22x plus 8. All right. See if you can factor that thing. What's the first question on every factoring problem? What's in common to all the terms? Is there like a number that goes, use your calculator. So there's some number that goes to 5, 22, and 8? No. Do they all have an X? No, the 8 doesn't have an X. So no, nothing in common. So skip the 1 big parenthesis, which we usually skip. Go right to the 2. 2 parentheses. This is good review. This is like what the exam will be like on Wednesday. This is going to put together everything we've learned. So I'm going to go right to the 2 parentheses because there's nothing in common. I don't do the 1 big parenthesis step because there's nothing in common. All right, now what technique should we use? What do you always do for three terms? What do we do? Do we do FL? Yeah, the whole FOIL, huh? FOIL, right? Isn't that what we always do for three termers? Right? You get an idea? For two termers, we do FL. For three termers, we do FOIL. And for four termers, like the quiz today, that was a 2-2 split, wasn't it? That's it. That's everything that's on the exam. That's the chapter 5 part of the exam.
Sorry, Rick, let's do it.
Yeah, so give it a try. Front times front to be front. Front times front to be front. 5x and x, huh? Good. Now remember how the order on the first, remember we talked about this last Monday? The order on the first two doesn't matter, but the order on the back two will matter. So in the back two, what times what makes 8? 2 times 4. Or 1 times 8, but it's probably 2 times 4. Remember how the closer numbers are better to try first? 2 times 4? Try 2 and 4. Now how do you know what order? Try both orders, and you've got to check the middle, the OI, the outer, the inner, the two happy face arcs, right? You've got to check the middle, make sure you can make a negative 22 in the middle.
5 times 4 is 20.
Right?
Subtract.
Your
Go
C's
backwards.
out.
There's C's, not X's. See, there's C's. But he has like that. Nah. It's better like that. It's not. My C's look like Z's. C's look like parentheses.
So if I put 4, 2 like that, I'm going to be wrong. Let's see how we know. Remember, you don't do the signs until you have the middle. If I do that like that, remember the middle is supposed to come from OI, so that's 4x, 10x. Can 4x and 10x make minus 22x, the middle? No way. No way. 4 and 10 make 14 if you add them, or 6 if you subtract them. No way they're going to make minus 22x. No, it is factorable. You got to switch the order on the back two. Remember, the order on the back two matters. Right? The order in the first two doesn't matter, but the order in the back two does. So you switch the order and go, okay, let me try it the other way. Let me put the 2 here and the 4 there and try again. Now the 2 inner makes 2x, the 2 outer makes 20x. Can they make negative 22? Both negative. If you lose $2, you lose $20, you lost $22. So both negative. And 2 negatives multiply to be positive 8. Yep, it's all right. Everybody see that? That's hard. That's that kind of factoring we were doing last Monday. Remember the hard kind? The whole FOIL, where you got to do that OI in the middle, 2 inner, 2 outer. You got to switch the order in the back too. Everybody good with that? You remember that kind of stuff? That takes practice. No shortcuts. Got to practice until you can do it. It's a mix-up. Nothing new here. There's no new techniques in this section. It's just a mix-up section. X to the third minus 81x squared minus 4x plus 324. What's the first question on every factoring problem? What's in common with all the terms? Do they all have an X? Do they all have a number? No, the problem doesn't have any number at all. So, okay, so forget that. So what do we do with 4 terms? For 3 terms we do FOIL. For 2 terms we do FL. What do we do for 4 terms? 2 groups, huh? 2-2 split. Right? That's like the quiz today. Right? 2-2 split. Like we did on the quiz today. First 2, last 2. Right? First 2, last 2. Remember that? Just like the quiz is. That's what you got to do with 4 terms. Is 2-2 split. So do just the first 2. And then do just the last 2. Separately. So what did just those first two have in common? X squared, right? Good so far? First, you take the lower power out, right? Don't forget that minus in the middle. Remember, that's the loose horse. It's very important. Eventually, we're going to have to contain it. Good so far. Remember that first two? Excuse me. Then the last two, what do they have in common? 4. Remember it matches. Remember whatever's here is going to be the same as there. When you do the 2-2 split, remember the parentheses always match. Remember that? Remember the 2-2 split, the grouping, the two groups? This is going to be x minus 81. Double check. Is that really true? Negative 4 times x? Yeah, negative 4x. Negative times negative, positive. Check your calculator. 324 is right. Is that good so far? Can't stop there, right? Got a loose horse. Okay, do one more step. One more step. Right? What do they both have? Remember, whatever they both have, you cross it off, put it in the front, put a new set of parentheses, and bring down the leftovers. What's left over? X squared minus 4. Is that good? Yeah, you do. Is that your question? Exactly. Good job. You got to do that. We have one more step. This guy's saying, I'm a higher power, and I got a minus sign. I want to break down again. The x minus 81, he'll be part of the answer, but he's not going to break down. He's not x squared. But the x squared minus 4, yeah, he'll break into x plus 2, x minus 2. There's the answer. That was a hard one. Yeah. Yeah, it's not really canceling out, it's factoring out. Yeah, it's really It's just my way of helping people to see that it factors out. Yeah, so the whole x minus 81, so the whole thing could go boom and be back here, and boom and be back there. Are we good? Does that make sense? You okay with the 2-2 thing? Does everybody see how that works? So one more time from the top. First two, when you have 4 terms, you do 2-2. Take out what's in common to the first two, what's in common to the last two. The parentheses always match. And then you grab the parentheses and put them in the front. There's one of them. Cross it off, bring down the leftovers. And then this guy will go again. Because he's a minus with a higher power. Is that good? Yeah.
So when you put this on the test, when you won't know, then to continue factoring, you will put factor completely and not just factor. Because remember when we had this on the other section just last week, our answer was just x minus 81, x2 minus 4. But had you then put factor completely, then we're going to know you still have to factor.
It'll just say factor. Those ones from last week, they never left one like this. They might have had a number like 5, which can't break down, but they would never put a 4 or a 9 or something that you could break into 2. Yeah, they'll just say factor, and that means factor completely. That means whenever you can, do go further. Yeah. Just review, but they're hard review ones. All right, so 6b to the third plus 4b squared minus 42b. Try that one. So what's the first step on this one? What's the first step on every factor problem?
What they have in common?
What's in common to all three terms? And 2, I think. Isn't it 2 and B? They all have a B, and 2 goes into 6, 4, and 42, right? So you got to put a 2B in the front, right? They all have in common a 2 and a B. So 2B, and do the one big parenthesis, and then on the next line, you'll go to the 2 parentheses, right? Get the hang of that? So feel like you can do this on a test on Wednesday? Maybe for a little practice between now and Wednesday? Uh-huh. Day after tomorrow. So 3b squared, right? Because 2 times 3 is 6. Plus 2b, because 2 times 2 is 4. Minus 21. Is that good so far? Good so far. And then from there we do the FOIL thing, right? Three B times B, front times front. Is that good so far? We good today, everybody? Is it making sense so far? Everybody tracking with me? So I took a 2B out, and now front times front to make front, last times last to make 21. What times what makes 21? 7, 3. Now, could it be 3 and 7 like that? Remember how we learned that you're never going to have two numbers in the same parenthesis that have anything in common? Now I can tell you why. I just said it without a reason for it. You're never going to have two numbers in the same parenthesis that have anything in common, let alone the very same number. Because if you had two things that had a 3 in common, you could take out a 3. Like that, couldn't you? Well, so what? Why is that the end of the world? Because we already took out all the commonness right here on step 1. There can't be other commonness later. We already did the common thing on step 1. There can't be commonness later. So that's why it'll never be that case. So if it is 3 and 7, it has to be the 7 is here and the 3 is there. That makes sense? You can't have two 3's in the same parenthesis. So now, how do I know if that's right? The OI, the 2 inner, the 2 outer, 7b and 9b, right? Inner times inner, 7b, outer times outer, 3 times 3, 9b. Now, how can they make the middle term, which is what? Plus 2b. Can they?
Yep.
Sign in the middle always goes on which one?
The bigger.
Sign in the middle goes on the bigger. Now, careful. Careful. It doesn't mean bigger up here. It means bigger among these two, which is different in this case. Which is bigger, 9 or 7? 9. Sign in the middle goes on the bigger. So the plus in the middle goes on the 9, minus on the 7. And then this sign always goes straight up. And the plus goes back there. And there's our answer. Does that make sense? We good with that? So sign in the middle goes on the bigger of these two. And then whatever sign is here just goes straight up. That makes sense? Questions? How are we doing? We've got a A few more minutes left.
Feels messy.
All right, so r to the fourth plus kr squared minus wr cubed minus wkr. Okay, what a mess.
Messy.
So try that one.
Messy.
No, we don't reorder four termers. Only ones we reorder are three termers. Good question. Good clarifying question. Now, only three termers
To my house,
do you have to worry about highest power to lowest.
nobody.
Only three terms.
Atlanta?
What's the first step on every factoring problem? Yeah, what do they all four have? R. You got to do it. So don't jump into the 2-2 thing. No. First, take an R out. Is that good? Good so far? Then do the 2-2 thing. So leave the R in the front. Now the first two, what do they have in common? Whoops. Leaves R squared plus K. And the back two have W. Everybody seeing that? Am I losing you? I'm so offended.
No, okay, so,
Because when you have a board.
Yeah, making sense. It is. This is a tough one. So what's really confusing is there's this other R that's out front on top of it all. Yeah, it's a big mess. So we have the R that we took out front in the beginning, and then we have first two, last two. These guys have R, and these guys have W in common. And then you do the match. So you got to do R squared plus K. What's left over? R minus W. There it is. What a mess. That's about as hard as they're getting. These are the toughest ones. Is that making sense? You about factored out? We'd have time for maybe one more. Questions on that one? Is that okay? Okay, so what's the first step?
What do they have in common? No?
First step really is to reorder this one. See how this one's, remember, three termers must be reordered. For three terms, you've got to go x squared x no x. X squared x no x. So you got to go minus 5x squared minus 15x plus 200. See that? Is that good so far? So reorder them from highest power to lowest. And then take out what's in common. So everybody remember, three termers must be put in order, x squared x no x. So I reordered them. Now take out what's in common. What do they all have in common? Good. -5, right? Everybody seeing that? Right. So -5 in the front. Yeah, and you're going to divide them all by -5, right? Divide by -5. Divide by -5, so it'd be x squared plus 3x minus 40. We get to there so far? Now there's one more step, isn't there? Yeah. Everybody good to there? So let me bring it up here. So then that -5 stays in the front. Then the two parentheses, we're thinking about FOIL. Remember, they have to multiply to be the number at the back and add to be the middle. What times what is 40? 8 and 5. Sign in the middle goes on the bigger. Plus 8 minus 5. Everybody see that? Is that making sense for you?
Are we gonna have another clicker quiz?
Yeah, I'm good. Is that good to there? Questions I can answer on that? So again, really important for the test on Wednesday, day after tomorrow. Right? Reorder, 3 terms are supposed to be reordered, x squared, x no x, then you take out the -5 in common. And then what multiplies to be 45 and 8. Sign in the middle plus, sign in the bigger. Sign in the middle goes to the bigger, the 8. All right, so 5.5 and 5.6 was due on Wednesday, and we're taking our exam number 3 on Wednesday. All right, so let's. Yeah, practice exams are all already, on the first page of Math Excel, right? Everybody knows where the practice exams are? Right? Are we all good with that? It's on the first